Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode 655 for the 2nd of May, 2021. Adrian Hill here from Calgary, Canada, filling in for Richard Saunders, who is on a secret assignment. Well, no, nothing so exciting. Richard has a cold and sounds like something from the Black Lagoon. Get well soon, Richard, and eat more waffles with real Canadian maple syrup. Coming on this week's show, before Richard caught the cold, he recorded a report about some crazy COVID-19 vaccine conspiracy flyers that were found on cars parked at an Australian hospital. How crazy are they? Find out at the top of the show. After that, I return with a follow-up report to my segment from a few weeks ago about bad things happening in threes. Do good things also happen in threes? Then to round off the show, Richard chimes in once more with the Trove Report, looking at historical newspapers, but this time from the USA, and the investigations of the Bay Area skeptics and psychic predictions. Also, listen out this week for the skeptical fairy godmother angel from the internet. So, no matter where you are in the world or what you are doing, you might be driving a giant truck across Canada, you might be walking the dog in Scotland, you might be enjoying a weekend at a beach house in Australia. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
As I mention sometimes on the show, if you go to skepticzone.tv and look at the show notes for each week, there's a permanent link there for coronaconspiracy.cloud. This is where you or anybody can upload crazy, wacky and dangerous coronavirus conspiracies or bad cures, flyers, leaflets, photographs taken on the street, things like that. And some flyers have come to my attention, which I think I'll be putting up there. These flyers were found stuck on the wiper blades, the windscreen wipers of cars in the car park of a private hospital in the state of Queensland. And I will describe them to you. The first flyer has the top half colourful sunset Australian skies with a couple of kangaroos hopping. It says, "Worldwide Rally for Freedom. Join us in the international stand for freedom, peace and human rights. Saturday, May 15th, 12 p.m. Australia-wide. Melbourne, Batman Park. Brisbane, Brisbane City Botanical Gardens. Sydney, Hyde Park. Adelaide, to be announced. Perth, Supreme Court Gardens. Cairns, City Place. Hobart, Parliament Lawn. Fraser Coast, Freedom Park, Pilbara. Darwin, Nightcliff Foreshore Park." With the URL, thepeoplesrevolution.com.au. Do you have the feeling that something isn't quite right? Why do we need an experimental vaccine with no liability for a, quote, virus, end quote, with a 99% survival rate, when there are safe and effective treatments available? If doctors are so sure that the, quote, vaccines, end quote, are safe, then why do they need protection laws, but we don't get any? Join millions of people around the world to unite, stand up, and take back our freedom. Please turn over for useful links. Now, what are these useful links on the other side? Censorship, including Google, is currently removing any opposing views and discrediting anyone going against government agendas. That sounds serious. Here are some useful links. 1. Vaccine deaths and adverse reactions. 2. We can lower the population through vaccinations. 3. PCR test, not designed for diagnosis. COVID Medical Network, Cops for COVID Truth, Concerned Lawyers Network, Know Your Rights, Reunite Democracy, A Stand in the Park. Meet with like-minded people every Sunday, 10 a.m. And all those have links. At the bottom in red it says, it's time to unite. This all ends when we say no. Remember, if it doesn't add up, do your research. For alternatives to Google, try duckduckgo.com or swisscows.com. Oh, but it doesn't stop there. The next flyer says, warning to all medical practitioners, doctors and nurses. Quote, I was just carrying out orders, end quote, is not a legal defence. You are licensed as individuals. You will be on trial for war crimes and held accountable, with links to International Criminal Court and Second Nuremberg Tribunal. Your duty is to inform your patient. 1. The, quote, vaccine, end quote, is experimental. As a patient, you are taking part in a trial consisting of new technology. 2. No guarantee of immunity. The, quote, vaccine, end quote, only lessens symptoms. 3. You can still spread the disease and will not be exempt from precautions mandated by the government. 4. Quote, vaccine, end quote, damage and death. Doctors and scientists do not know what short or long-term damage taking the, quote, vaccine, end quote, can cause, as no long-term studies have taken place. This can include permanent disability and death. Visit openvaers.com, COVID vaccine adverse events reports, for a current list of damage and death caused by the COVID-19, quote, vaccines, end quote. If you are unsure, please read Article 6 of the UNESCO Universal Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights. With a link, see reverse for information on consent as written in the Nuremberg Code that holds you personally responsible for your actions. Still confused? Refer to your Code of Ethics. All right, let's see what's on the other side of this. The other side says, the COVID-19, quote, vaccine, end quote, will not provide lasting immunity, contribute to herd immunity, eliminate the virus, prevent you from contracting the virus, prevent you from spreading the virus to others, prevent you from death, eliminate the need for business closures, eliminate the need for restrictions on gatherings, eliminate the need for masks. This begs the question, what will it do? This is mRNA packaged in a fat envelope that is delivered to a cell. It is a medical device designed to stimulate the human cell into becoming a pathogen creator. This is not a vaccine. Quote, vaccine, end quote, is a legally defined term under public health law, CDC and FDA. They are specifically required to stimulate both the immunity within the person receiving it and must also disrupt transmission. They are using the term, quote, vaccine, end quote, to sneak this thing under the emergency law. What is the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19, quote, vaccine, end quote? The Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine is an unapproved vaccine that may prevent COVID-19. There is no FDA-approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. FDA, 6th of April 21. From Fact Sheet for Recipients and Caregivers. Are you aware that all vaccine makers worldwide have been given a free pass from any legal prosecution since 1986 regarding any deaths or injuries caused by the vaccines? Are you aware that the Pfizer and Oxford AstraZeneca, quote, vaccine, end quote, is still engaged on phase 3 trials for 2 more years, which means this vaccine is still very much in the experimental stages, even though it's being offered to the public? Can you afford to get sick? Are you prepared to be a guinea pig for 2 years minimum? For a, quote, vaccine, end quote, that only reduces symptoms, not transmission. And at the end of the page, in completely different typeface, sort of like comic or chalkboard or something, meet with like-minded people every Sunday, 10 a.m. at New Farm Park. So it's quite obvious this is just taken off the internet and a little bit of local information added. It appears to be written more or less for an American audience, I think. So, despite of everything, and despite of the news coming out of India at the moment, there are still people in our society willing to run around car parks in hospitals, putting these ridiculous flyers under the windscreen wiper blades of cars parked there. Now, the anti-vaccination movement in Australia has certainly lost a lot of footing over the last decade or so, thanks to the efforts of people like the Australian Skeptics and others, Stop the AVN, so on and so forth. But it seems to me there are still plenty of people out there who will happily download, print out, and distribute this bunk from the internet. Skeptics in the pub, once again, in the pub. Thursday, the 6th of May 2021, the Occidental Hotel at Wynyard. Australian Skeptics present Dr. Paul Willis, Beyond Atheism. Paul says, I think we've been drawn into a sucker punch when we identify as atheists. We are defining ourselves with respect to the rejection of other people's paradigms and not defining ourselves by our own positive values. Identifying as a secular, rational humanist is a better description of who I am. Dr. Paul Willis is an adjunct associate professor in paleontology at Flinders University and a freelance teacher of research communication. He spent 6 years as director of the National Institution of Australia and 14 years at the ABC as a science reporter producer. He now has his own video production and research company, Paleo Pictures, telling the world the stories from the history of life. He is also a past Skeptic of the Year. Join us in person, yes, in person, from 6 p.m. and the night finishes when the last person leaves. Enjoy a meal and a drink accompanied by lively discussion, free spoon-bending lessons, and the company of other skeptics as we cover a variety of interesting topics. There's no need to belong to Australian Skeptics, all are welcome. For more information, just look up Aust Skeptics, AUST Skeptics, on meetup.com. See you there Thursday the 6th of May, the Occidental Hotel, York Street, Sydney. You can count on Adrian with Adrian Hill.
After my musings about the saying bad things happen in threes, I wondered if anyone thought the opposite, that good things happen in threes. It seems that upon investigation, there are many beliefs and sayings around the positive effect of all things three, and it has been an important number in many cultures throughout history. Most people have heard of Pythagoras for his famous theorem a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The Pythagoreans, who followed Pythagoras, revered numbers. According to Wikipedia, they held the number 3 to be more special than the other numbers since it represented the states of existence, beginning, middle, and end, and the goodness of each person, prudence, drive, and good fortune. Other reasons for the reverence to 3 are that 3 points define a triangle in a plane, and the god Apollo's symbol was a triangle. In classical Greek mythology, there was the Olympic triad of Zeus, Athena, and Apollo. In Hinduism, there are the 3 deities, Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. In Christianity, there is the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. This is just a small sample of what I found. The expression, third time's a charm, or third time lucky, is often heard as a good luck appeal before someone attempts something after their second try. These can sometimes be heard when my family is playing games such as Yahtzee in hopes that a third roll will produce a 6. When someone loses 3 hands in a row in poker, they might jokingly say that the 4th or 5th time will be lucky. But if, in the next game, they lose the first 2 hands but win the 3rd, they might cherry-pick their memory to confirm the saying. If we are learning a new skill, such as skiing a new challenging run, and we are successful on the 3rd attempt, can we then conclude that good things happen in 3s, or that the 3rd time's the charm? Or is it more likely that the practice done in the first 2 attempts make the 3rd more likely to succeed? The history of these 2 sayings is difficult to determine. Many dubious sources on the internet ascribe the saying to the Holy Trinity. According to Gary Martin at the website The Phrase Finder, there is not a lot of evidence for this. One explanation used is an old English law that stated if you survived execution 3 times, you would be freed. In 1885, John Babacombe Lee was convicted of murdering his employer and was sentenced to hang. All 3 attempts failed and he was later released. But interesting as this event is, the expression predates it in Alexander Hislop's 1862 book, The Proverbs of Scotland. Martin asserts that the sayings are old and likely folk beliefs about perseverance. 3rd time's a charm is a manner of saying try, and try again. Have you ever noticed how many folk tales are based on the number 3? For example, the 3 Little Pigs and 3 Billy Goats Gruff, or that they have groups of 3 such as Cinderella and her 2 evil stepsisters, and Rumpelstiltskin and his 3 guesses. One of our most famous analogies rooted in folk literature is the Goldilocks principle, which arises from the temperature of 3 bowls of porridge. In sports such as cricket and hockey, there is the hat trick, where a bowler takes 3 consecutive wickets or a hockey player scores 3 goals in a game. Canadian football has 3 downs. Baseball has 3 strikes. Horse racing has win, place, and show, and the trifecta, which a bettor can win by predicting which horse will come first, second, and third. In the upcoming Olympics, a select few will win gold, silver, and bronze medals. I could go on. Think of the many phrases we know that are grouped in 3s. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And from the United States Constitution, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In my research, I kept coming across disciplines which have developed a rule of 3. This is so prevalent that there is a list on Wikipedia. There are rules of 3 for computer programming, statistics, hematology, aviation, writing, and even Wicca. In Wicca, the rule of 3 prescribes that the energy that a person puts into the world will be returned to them 3 times. In German folklore, a triangle with a cross in each corner and a prayer in the middle was said to protect cradles from witches and to prevent gout. In Japan, a tricolored or calico cat is thought to be a protective spirit that attracts good luck, wealth, and prosperity. Japanese sailors would often take these cats aboard to protect them from misfortune at sea. In writing, whether it be drama or comedy, it is commonly thought that a trio of incidents or characters is the most engaging, satisfying, and memorable for the audience. In comedy, jokes often have 3 subjects: a Scotsman, a German, and an American, a priest, a doctor, and a lawyer. Or my take on a classic: a statistician, an engineer, and a computer science are in a car heading to the Rocky Mountains for a hike. The car breaks down in an area with no cell reception. The statistician says, what is the probability that another car will drive by and help us in the next 10 minutes? The engineer says, let's create a list of possible solutions and the cost and time associated with each. The computer scientist says, why don't we get out of the car, then get back in, and see if it will start up again? So-called inspirational writers will attempt to motivate us with such waffly 3s as, beautify your thoughts. Thoughts are the headwaters of action, life, and manifestation, said by David Avocado Wolf. Or, the way you think, the way you behave, the way you eat, can influence your life by 30 to 50 years, by Deepak Chopra. I prefer this inspirational quote by Reba McEntire. To succeed in life, you only need 3 things: a wishbone, a backbone, and a funny bone. Within advertising, the rule of 3 has been used repeatedly to get your attention. Reuse, reduce, recycle. Just do it. from Nike. I'm loving it from McDonald's. Most are aware of mind, body, and spirit, the favorite of the so-called health and wellness industry. Why are all things 3 so common? There has been quite a lot of research about memory that might help to explain this. In 1956, Bell Labs published a paper called The Magical Number 7 plus or minus 2, where the author Miller demonstrated that people can repeat back no more than 7 randomly ordered chunks of information, either letters, digits, or words. Later research has shown that this was optimistic. Multiple studies by Nelson Cohen and others have shown that young adults can only recall 3 to 5 chunks. And as we age, things do not improve. Cohen has shown that the number of chunks that can be held in working memory decreases as we age. So just as our brains are pattern-seeking, perhaps our working memory limits what appeals to us. What if we looked for the significance of other numbers? With a quick Google search for the number 5 in our lives, I had these titles pop up. Purpose and the life path of the number 5. Why is the number 5 so important? Angel number 5. Continuing in my odd number search, when I substituted in 7 for 5, up popped 7 reasons we are captivated by the number 7, Angel number 7, and Magnificent 7, the meaning and history behind the world's favorite number. So, it appears that as we look for meaning in our lives, every single digit number has been assigned significance. Although the number 3 is not alone in seeking notoriety, it has been important in the past, present, and will most likely still be in the future. People, events, and things grouped in 3 appeal to us, while many superstitions and sayings are based on the venerable number. And having both beliefs, bad things happen in 3s and the best things come in 3s, covers all possibilities, allowing us to validate the saying that corresponds to the situation at hand. Quite like what we have found the psychics in the Great Australian Prediction Project do to hedge their bets. Now, it is time for me to head upstairs and make myself a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich.
Hey, Adrian.
Hi, Susan. Out for some shopping, eh?
Yep, I'm stocking up on this imitation maple syrup from Australia.
Imitation? Imitation? No. You need to buy the real thing from Canada.
But I saw the TV commercial and it said that noted pancake eating expert Richard Saunders says it's the best maple syrup money can buy, and 60% of people preferred it in a blind taste test. Everyone knows it's the best.
Oh, come on, Susan. You know better than that. That's the argument from authority.
It is?
Or is it the argument from popularity? It might be another logical fallacy. I'm not sure.
Really? If only we had a way of finding out.
Hello, everyone.
Oh my, it's the skeptical fairy godmother angel from the internet.
Yes, that's right. But how did you know who I am?
I listened to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Also, didn't you used to be the tooth fairy?
Oh, yes. I remember you. I'll never forget your left upper lateral incisor. Would you like it back?
No, it's okay. You keep it.
Hey, skeptical fairy godmother angel, what are you doing here in the supermarket?
I've come to tell you that you can find out about 40 different logical fallacies on YouTube in one handy location. Listen to each one to hear an explanation and examples of how they might be used.
Oh.
Just go to tinyurl.com/logicalzone and you'll find all the logical fallacies with Michelle Bickersma with handy time codes to get to the exact one you want.
Who is Michelle Bickersma?
Just a friend of mine.
tinyurl.com/logicalzone. Thank you, skeptical fairy godmother angel. I guess you'll disappear in a puff of smoke and thunder now, eh?
Not quite yet. I have a bit of shopping to do. Susan?
Yes?
Where do I find the Australian maple syrup?
What? No. Come with me, so-called skeptical fairy. This is real maple syrup from Canada. Made with real maple.
Now it's time once again to look into the archives of newspapers, articles, periodicals, and so on. Normally we would go to Trove at trove.nla.gov.au to see what was happening in Australian newspapers and so on, but this week we're going to cast our net a bit further, and with the help of my good friend Ben Radford from Squaring the Strange, I have access to some American newspapers. That is to say, newspapers from the United States. And in relation to the ongoing Great Australian Psychic Prediction Project, I thought I'd look up references in the United States to psychic predictions, and more importantly, the skeptical take on some of these predictions. Now it seems that the references I've discovered all revolve around the San Francisco Bay Area. That is to say, the skeptical investigations of the Bay Area Skeptics, a group I'm very pleased to be associated with for many years. And the first item comes to us from the Nashua Telegraph, serving Nashua and southern New Hampshire. Nashua, New Hampshire, Friday the 28th of December, 1984. Whoops! 1984 proves to be another bad year for psychics. San Francisco, Associated Press. California hasn't slipped into the ocean. No lightning bolt has struck Mr. T, and Senator Edward M. Kennedy has yet to elope to Europe with his secretary. It never ceases to amuse me of the predictions that are made and how short people's memories are, said Schaefer, a member of the Bay Area Skeptics, a group that since 1982 has traced the track records of psychics' annual prognostications. Presuming the final 4 days of 1984 don't prove the seers correct after all, this year's predictions were dismal, but no worse than any other years, Schaefer said Thursday. 1983 was quite terrible too. This kind of thing happens every year. For example, Gene Dixon of Washington, D.C. predicted that Fidel Castro's agents would take over 2 small Latin American countries, that drug scandals would leave the outcome of the Olympic Games in doubt, and that Richard Burton was very likely to step back into Elizabeth Taylor's life. She somehow failed to predict Burton's death. Schaefer said, "They never seem to do well with specifics like that. Some psychics are experts at being vague," Schaefer said. Janine Dixon is the best of these. She might say, "Nancy Reagan is entering a time of great crisis." That's a great prediction because it says nothing. Dallas psychic John Catchins predicted Kennedy would elope. Miami psychic Mick Dane predicted that Mr. T would be struck by lightning, attracted to his gold jewelry. And local psychic Barbara Mussalam foresaw an assassination attempt against President Reagan on the campaign trail in October. People say, what about the serious psychics? Well, these are the serious psychics, said Schaefer, adding that psychics use publicity from their annual predictions to attract customers for private readings that cost as much as $300. But even Schaefer admits the tellers of the fortune occasionally were on the mark. For example, Ms. Masalam predicted a woman would run for vice president on the Democratic ticket. However, journalist Jack Anderson made the same prediction in a Parade magazine article. He said, "Most people can do as well by guessing, and a lot of the predictions could be made by anyone who reads the newspaper," Schaefer said. The Reverend Woods Mattingly, leader of the Seeker's Quest ministry in San Jose, was responsible for what Schaefer called the most dramatic prediction of 1984, that the Californian coast would drop into the ocean. On Thursday, Mattingly said he backed away from that prediction this year, but was convinced it would happen before the year 2000. There will be a geologic disturbance along the southern Californian coast that will lead to a very large earthquake or inundation by the Pacific Ocean, or both, he said. The timeline is just very hard to get. It's not meant to be an excuse, it's just very hard to get. After he sensed the disaster would occur, Mattingly said he turned to prayer. I think the power of prayer changes things, he said. When I get a negative forecast, I apply prayer. I see it makes a difference in people's personal lives, so why can't we apply it to the planet and expect to see it all work there? No matter the record, polls show that 50% to 75% of the public believes psychics can see the future, Schaefer said. For many people, this is a kind of substitute religion, he said. For other people, they've simply seen and heard it so many times, and they have never heard it effectively challenged. And that was from way back in 1984, and a lot of that is simply still true today. And I really find that line in here about people say, what about the serious psychics? That's fascinating, and it still goes on because people will criticize skeptics for going after easy targets. Well, we examine people who make paranormal claims. It's as simple as that. And they all think they're serious, or they all pose as being serious at least. And our next clipping comes from 1988. The 6th of January, the Syracuse Post-Standard. Skeptics keep track record on psychic predictions. By Kristen Huckashun, Night Rider Newspapers, San Jose, California. You read it here first, or second if you buy the tabloids. Donna Rice, Fawn Hall, and Jessica Hahn will co-star in a Charlie's Angels-type television series. Scientists will discover and hatch baby dinosaur eggs. Queen Elizabeth will step down. Charles and Di will step up. That's the word from the Bay Area Skeptics, an organization that keeps tabs on annual psychic predictions so it can rebut them at the end of the year. Nobody has consistently correctly predicted events, said Robert Schaefer, a Santa Clara, California computer programmer and former chairman of the Skeptics group, which was formed 5 years ago to question and often disprove paranormal claims. You would think, with a little bit of critical thinking, people would realize that the predictions are a lot of hokum, Schaefer said. People's acceptance just shows how rare critical thinking is. To counterbalance that, the skeptics announce at the end of each year the accuracy of that year's psychic predictions. The tally? Not very accurate. For instance, San Jose's psychic Sylvia Brown predicted that in 1987, part of Interstate 280 in San Jose would be washed away in June. A major earthquake would strike around the California towns of Mill Valley and Grass Valley, and Ronald Reagan would seek a change to the law so he could run for a third term. Well, with 1987 behind us, the Bay Area skeptics point out that virtually no rain fell in June, no earthquake hit Mill Valley and Grass Valley, which are 100 miles apart in any case, and Reagan didn't try to get himself re-elected. Brown could not be reached for comment. Other 1987 predictions that did not come to pass, according to the skeptics, included pregnancies for Princess Di and Fergie, and Madonna, a love affair between Burt Reynolds and Vanna White, assassination attempts on Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev and Pope John Paul II, and a drug overdose by Princess Stephanie of Monaco. And it seems to me that even in papers from the United States, the royals seem to get a lot of mentions. Okay, the next one comes from 1990, on the 28th of December 1990. Annapolis Capital. Psychics bomb out with predictions for 1990. As predicted, the nation's most famous psychics failed to accurately forecast 1990 news events, and in most cases were just plain wrong. The San Francisco Bay Area skeptics said yesterday. Predictions that fizzled included a Jackie Onassis marriage to rock star John Bon Jovi and a tidal wave flooding New York City. Did you hear the one about the meteorite landing in the White House Rose Garden? or the Japanese finding a cure for the common cold.
These predictions can prove harmful, even dangerous,
said Robert Steiner, the Skeptic spokesman.
It becomes dangerous when you let other people control your lives with them.
Each year, the Skeptics
dig up the predictions made in the year before to the embarrassment of those who made them.
Steiner said no psychics predicted the genuinely surprising news stories from 1990, including the stunning electoral defeat of the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. This year's top stories were
so unanticipated that someone would have to be really psychic to have predicted them,
the group said in a statement. The Skeptics described themselves as, quote, a group of people from all walks of life who support the critical examination of paranormal claims, end quote. Psychic Gene Dixon predicted that President Bush's greatest challenge would come over the summer, and he would be forced to make life and death decisions about troubles in Latin America and China. While those regions were relatively quiet over the summer,
Dixon somehow failed to foresee Bush having trouble in Iraq,
the Skeptics said. In a supermarket tabloid in July, Irene Hughes predicted Jacqueline Onassis would marry John Bon Jovi and Bryant Gumbel would be fired from The Today Show after a barroom brawl. In the same article, Marie Graciet of Los Angeles said the largest earthquake on record would hit the seabed near New York, producing a tidal wave that would flood Manhattan. She's also the psychic who predicted the meteorite in the Rose Garden and the cure for the common cold.
Not one prediction, which was both specific and surprising, came true.
The Skeptics scoffed. And a personal note from me, it's a pity that the journalist used the word scoffed. And what I hope the Skeptics don't do is scoff. That is, make fun or light of these predictions. Well, in a sense, we sort of can. It can be a funny story, but putting the word scoffed does imply that the Skeptics are ultimately pleased and happy to say, "There, I told you so." Now, which is just not really the spirit of skepticism. Skepticism is an open inquiry and reporting on the results. I hope skeptics don't go around scoffing too much. Now let's skip forward a couple of years to 1992. On the 1st of January in the Galveston Daily News, psychics from coast to coast, wrong again. Associated Press. San Jose, California. This is what didn't happen in 1991. California didn't slip into the sea. Tom Cruise didn't go bald. The Pope didn't meet a crazed camel. And Tammy Faye Baker and Imelda Marcos didn't open a boutique. This is what did happen. The Soviet Union dissolved. The Kennedy clan faced another public trial. The US went to war in the Persian Gulf. And the psychics from coast to coast were wrong again.
I could almost picture something as crazy as Tammy Faye Baker and Imelda Marcos getting together. It's outrageous but plausible because they're outrageous.
Skeptic Society Chairman Norman Sperling said Tuesday.
But it didn't happen. Although some people out there probably thought it would.
Not the skeptics, especially the naysayers in San Francisco Bay Area Skeptic Society, which on Tuesday issued its 8th annual list of failed psychic predictions that made tabloid headlines, but not news last year. Some of the failed prophecies included Terry Brill predicted a quake would dump California into the ocean, and U.S. housing costs would drop as much as 50%. Housing prices slipped a bit, as did the state, but Brill kept her Californian residency. In her defense, Brill said that the Skeptic Society twisted her predictions around to make her look wrong.
I never said California would fall into the ocean, and housing prices did fall,
she said from her Redwood City home.
I said the coastline would change, not disappear. The skeptics just don't like psychics.
Maria Graciet predicted a massive earthquake would strike the Grand Canyon, and actor Cruz would lose his hair because of a stress-related illness. Both appear to be in one piece. John Monty said a former US president would die and an American tourist would foil an assassination attempt on former Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev. Gorbachev isn't dead, but communism is. Judy Heavenly said Pope John Paul II would have a
close call
with a charging,
crazed camel.
And scientists would find evidence of extraterrestrial life using the Hubble Space Telescope. The hard-to-focus Hubble suffered from gremlins, but only of the high-tech type. Jean Dixon predicted the Reverend Jimmy Swaggart's ministry would be saved by a last-minute donation, and she forecast Prince Charles and Princess Diana would announce their separation, an annual psychic favorite. Nixon did foresee the release of hostages held in Lebanon and the short tenure of President Jean-Francois Aristide of Haiti. But Skeptic Society spokesman Robert Schaefer dismissed those predictions, saying,
"Most people knew the hostage crisis was nearing an end, and Haiti presidents aren't known to last."
Clarissa Bernhard twice predicted quakes that didn't happen and said Mrs. Baker and Mrs. Marcos would team up to open a chain of clothing boutiques. The two shopaholics are still on the user end of credit cards. Lou Wright predicted a major quake would devastate the Los Angeles area and that a famous politician would leave his wife for singer Whitney Houston. Only Brill could be reached for comment on her psychic predictions. But another, Lou Wright, who shares the female psychic's Denver hometown and a masculine first name, offers to share her 1992 predictions when she answered her telephone Tuesday.
"I'm getting so many calls for the other Lou that I might as well try it."
She said,
"Warren Beatty and Annette Bening will name their new baby daughter Madonna. Not."
So there we go. Some of the past reports in various papers from the United States revolving the predictions of psychics as reported, as commented on by the Bay Area skeptics. And it's been very interesting to trawl through the online resources of American newspapers for a change. And once again, thank you to my friend and colleague Ben Radford from Squaring the Strange for helping me to get access to some of these online newspapers.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone this week. And thank you to those people from around the planet who contribute to the show each week via Patreon or PayPal via skepticzone.tv. Have a look at that page for lots more information, including the show notes for every episode. And at the bottom of the page are links to other Skeptic Zone productions, including the Vaccination Chronicles documentary and the Solar Flare Space Adventure. But for this week, this is Adrian Hill signing off from Calgary, Canada.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics or any other skeptical organisation. Hello to the people who listen after the music. I'm here with my niece Cordelia. Hello, Cordy.
Hi.
Hi. And you're into dice, aren't you?
Yeah, very much.
Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah,
stuff
Dungeons
like
and Dragons.
Well, we happen to have some D10s with
Yep.
us. So, folks at home, we're going to roll. You'll roll yours and I'll roll mine.
Yep.
And we'll shout out the numbers and see if you can guess or predict what the dice are going to be.
How?
Oh, do you want to play too?
Well,
You've got
yeah.
3 of us now. What's your name again?
Alison.
Hello, Alison. All right, here we go. So, Cordelia, you go first.
Yep. So just shout out the number.
You shout out the number when it comes. Yep.
4.
4. Alison?
3. No.
It's all right, you can guess. 6, and I will guess mine's going to come up at 2. 8. We're not very good, are we?
No.
Shall we do it one more time?
Yes.
All right, here we go. There's yours. I'll go first. 10. Oh, it's a 9. Close. What do you say?
I'm gonna guess a 3.
9.
I'm gonna guess 4.
3. Yeah, look, let's play another game.
Yeah.
We're not winning this game.
Yeah.
Thank you.